She never expected to end up in her boss's arms. A business dinner turned into a late night, and one drink too many blurred her judgment. The strict, cold CEO she feared suddenly revealed a side she had never seen. Gentle, vulnerable, and irresistible. One moment of weakness pulled her into a night of passion she would never forget. When morning light broke through the curtains, reality hit her like a storm. She had crossed a forbidden line, and now her life would never be the same again. What seemed like a mistake was only the beginning of destiny. She woke up in the CEO's bed, her heart racing. Shame and fear consumed her as she quietly dressed, avoiding his eyes. He, on the other hand, acted unfazed, calmly sipping his coffee as if nothing had happened. The silence was unbearable. Did he regret it? Was she just a temporary distraction? She couldn't bear the thought of facing him at the office again. Every step out of his penthouse felt like she was walking away from a nightmare. Yet deep inside, her heart still pounded with memories of his touch, something she wanted to forget but couldn't. Determined to erase the night from her memory, she submitted her resignation letter. She told herself she needed a fresh start far away from his world. But the CEO wasn't one to be fooled easily. His sharp eyes noticed her sudden withdrawal, and though he said nothing, she could sense his suspicion. To her, disappearing was the only option. She quietly packed her small apartment, determined to run before he realized what was happening. She thought she could leave everything behind, including him. But fate was already writing a different story, one she couldn't escape no matter how far she ran. Weeks later, as she tried to build a new routine, something unexpected happened. Her period never came. At first, she brushed it off as stress, but when the days stretched into weeks, fear struck her heart. Could it be possible? Her hands trembled as she counted the days since that night. Panic rose inside her chest. The thought of carrying her boss's child was terrifying. She wasn't ready, and she certainly didn't want to be tied to him forever. She wanted freedom, not chains of responsibility. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "What if this child was a blessing?" Alone in her tiny bathroom, she stared at the stick in her shaking hands. A single pink line appeared, followed by another. Positive. Her knees buckled as she sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't ready to be a mother, let alone carry the child of a man as powerful and intimidating as her boss. Her mind raced with fear. Would he demand custody? Would he think she was trapping him? With trembling lips, she whispered, "What should I do?" The tiny test in her hands had changed her entire future. She decided to keep the truth buried deep in her heart. No one could know, not her friends, not her family, and certainly not him. She wore loose clothes, avoided public places, and worked odd jobs to keep afloat. Every night she whispered to her belly, promising to protect the little life growing inside her. She convinced herself she could handle this alone. But secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when the father was a man who controlled everything he touched. She thought she had escaped his shadow, but destiny was already pulling her back into his world. Her absence didn't sit well with him. The resignation, the sudden vanishing, none of it made sense. He hired people to find her, his instincts screaming that something wasn't right. One afternoon, as he reviewed reports, a file landed on his desk. It revealed her recent hospital visits. His eyes darkened, fury and concern mixing within him. Why hadn't she told him? Why did she run? He wasn't a man who tolerated betrayal, especially when his own blood might be involved. He slammed his desk, determination in his gaze. If she thought she could hide from him, she was wrong. She sat nervously in the clinic, waiting for her ultrasound. The sound of a steady heartbeat filled the room, bringing tears to her eyes. But her relief was short-lived. When she stepped out, her heart stopped. He was standing there, his piercing gaze locked onto her. "So it's true," he said, voice low but firm. Panic surged through her as she clutched her bag, trying to flee. But he caught her wrist, his grip unyielding. "You thought you could keep my child from me?" His words echoed like thunder, sealing her fate. There was no escape anymore, not from him. He dragged her into his car, fury burning in his eyes. "You belong to me. That child belongs to me. Do you understand?" His voice was sharp, but beneath it lay a tremor of fear of losing them both. She tried to explain, to beg him to let her go, but he wouldn't hear it. "I will not let you ruin yourself or this baby," he declared. She realized then that he wasn't just angry, he was determined. No matter what she wanted, he would never let her disappear again. His demand wasn't just control, it was a vow. She found herself at his mansion, a world of wealth and luxury that suffocated her. He ordered staff to prepare her room, meals, and even her clothes. Every step she took was watched, every need anticipated. She hated it. She wanted freedom, not golden chains. Yet, when she touched her belly and felt the growing life inside, doubt clouded her anger. Was it so wrong for him to care? Still, his control was overwhelming. He wasn't giving her a choice, he was taking over her life, and she had no idea if she had the strength to resist him. His obsession grew stronger each day. He made sure she ate the best meals, slept on the softest bed, and never lifted a finger. Doctors came daily, monitoring her and the baby. She felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage, yet his every action was laced with concern. At night, she caught him standing silently at her door, watching over her like a guardian. She wanted to hate him, but her heart betrayed her. Was this control or care? She couldn't tell anymore. All she knew was that his presence both suffocated and comforted her at once. Rumors began spreading through the company. The once untouchable CEO was suddenly seen fussing over his former assistant. Employees whispered in corners, gossip spreading like wildfire. Some mocked her, others envied her. She avoided public eyes, but humiliation pierced her every time she heard the whispers. She never wanted fame or scandal. He, however, remained unfazed, brushing off the rumors as irrelevant. But she knew society would judge her cruelly. And when the media caught wind of her pregnancy, her world would no longer be private. The weight of being tied to him felt heavier than she could bear. One afternoon, his fiancée, beautiful, sharp, and furious, stormed into the mansion. "How dare you bring her here?" she screamed. The woman's eyes burned with hatred as she turned to the trembling assistant. "You think carrying his child makes you special? You're nothing but a mistake." The words cut deep, but before she could reply, he stepped forward. "Enough," he said coldly, shielding her with his body. His fiancée's face twisted in disbelief. "You're choosing her over me?" The storm that followed shook the mansion, and she realized her presence had ignited a war she never wanted to fight. Tired of being treated as weak, she finally spoke up. "I am not your enemy, and I'm not a toy to be fought over." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. For the first time, she defended herself against the cruelty surrounding her. The fiancé sneered, but the assistant stood her ground, refusing to bow her head. He watched silently, admiration flickering in his gaze. For so long he had seen her as fragile, but now he saw her strength, and it stirred something deep inside him. She wasn't just the mother of his child. She was more. The media frenzy reached its peak. Reporters hounded them, demanding answers. In a bold move, he stood before the cameras, holding her hand. "This is the woman I love. She carries my child. They are my family." The world gasped. She froze, heart pounding, unable to believe his words. In one statement, he shattered every rumor and declared her place beside him. But while the world now saw her differently, she felt torn. Was this declaration love or just his pride as a man, unwilling to lose what he considered his? His public claim was protection, but also a cage. Alone in her room, she replayed the night they shared. The heat of his touch, the softness in his gaze, memories that once haunted her now stirred confusion. That night wasn't just passion. There had been tenderness, longing, and something unspoken. Could it have been love? She touched her belly, wondering if that single night had planted not just a child, but a bond between them. He wasn't the cold CEO she once feared. He had shown her a side hidden from the world. The more she remembered, the harder it became to deny the truth her heart whispered. His constant protection began to chip away at her defenses. The way he made sure she never walked alone, the way he noticed her smallest discomforts, the way he stayed awake during her checkups. It wasn't just duty. Slowly, her fear began to melt into something warmer. She found herself looking for him, missing him when he wasn't near. Love had sneaked into her heart quietly against her will. She hated how much power he had over her emotions, but deep inside she knew the truth. She wasn't just carrying his child anymore, she was falling for him. One evening, he appeared with a small velvet box. Her breath caught as he knelt before her, eyes uncharacteristically soft. "Marry me," he said, "not for duty, not for appearances, but because I can't imagine a life without you." She froze, unable to believe what she heard. He, the cold CEO who once terrified her, was now vulnerable before her. The ring sparkled in the light, but it was his words that made her heart race. Was this real, or another move of control? The choice before her was heavier than anything she had faced before. She didn't answer immediately. Fear of betrayal, of being abandoned after giving everything, held her back. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw sincerity, something she had never expected from him. Slowly she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, though her voice trembled. Relief flooded his face, and for the first time, she felt his embrace not as a cage but as shelter. Still, doubts lingered. Could she truly trust him? Could love grow between two people who began with a mistake? Her yes was complicated, but it was also the first step toward healing their broken beginnings. The wedding was small but beautiful, filled with warmth she never thought she'd experience. As she walked down the aisle, her hand resting gently on her belly, she saw him waiting, no longer just her boss, but her partner, her future. Their journey hadn't been easy. It had been filled with fear, anger, and misunderstandings. But standing together now, they were no longer bound by accident. They were bound by love. He kissed her hand tenderly, whispering, "Our family begins today." For the first time, she smiled without fear, ready to welcome both love and their child into the world.